comfortable because there's more of their people there.
Right, there's so many people to hate the Klan don't know which way to look.
That actually,
It just overwhelms them.
actually presents a great danger to this whole secession thing. I have a friend on the internet. I don't know if you don't go to Salon Liberty Yahoo group, do you?
No.
Okay. Well, sort of you can tell from the name of it what it is, basically.
Salon, I don't know where salon comes into it, but...
Well, salon didn't usually always mean hair care place. It mean like place to sip tea and discuss. Basically, this would be a salon.
Oh,
Right.
This would be the tea salon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Mad scientist
better
tea
clothes,
salon.
but anyway.
Aren't we, though? Really?
It was run by a transsexual prostitute named Aster Francesca. Very intelligent, blindingly intelligent person. And she is very much a libertarian in personal liberty. She just has this problem with the idea of the U.S. breaking apart and decentralizing because cosmopolitanism may not survive in a decentralized patchwork America.
Well, actually, that was
there?
Chris's argument, is that it's segregationist.
Have we? We stepped over
But she
the
doesn't
lines?
depend on cosmopolitanism.
Yeah,
She can live in a town of...
What'd you start at 4 o'clock?
Well, I don't know what the customers would be,
About
but
4:01, you
Well,
started.
if she can live in a town with a majority and that is controlled by transsexual
Well, the reason
prostitutes
I
there.
bring it up is because she lives in San Francisco. So
Well, anyway, if you recall, I've given you a chance to expound upon
Yes.
your concepts here. I mean, I'm trying to focus back.
do you want to do that now?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
trying
was-
to focus you.
That was
I
the
had
that.
some
He's leading
information
you
for
along.
Okay, we have
I
information.
heard y'all talking. The New Hampshire primaries or whatever ended 39 for Clinton, 36 for Obama, but they both got 9 delegates.
So
even
basically
though
the
they
same.
won, she won in percentage of votes. They
tied.
actually got the same number of delegates in New Hampshire.
Huh.
Which was
Okey-dokey then.
9 delegates.
Cool.
Interesting.
Thank
Yes.
you very
Oh,
much.
the delegates. It's not winner take all in New Hampshire.
No, not in New Hampshire. In some places.
Well,
Like
all I
here.
can say is, I just hope we don't go back to Clintonism circus.
Yeah, well.
The Clinton circus.
Well, the thing
Well,
is, the Clintons are into the big machine. I mean, they're part. They're part of the big machine.
They're part of the big
By the way,
machine,
they're bought and paid for.
and then they dazzle you with their little circus going on, and
By
they're
the
really
way,
the big
I
machine.
want credit in the next 420 role as the official Mad Scientist Tea Party researcher.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think you should have that.
Okay, well, after
My-
seeing your little production last night,
Well, I
perhaps you can put that segment together.
Would you like
and
me
Yeah.
to
deliver it to me on a little DVD, and I'll
Librarian
insert it
Forbidden
in there. You know what I mean?
Reason
I think what's
I-
really important
If you think you
to
could do that?
decentralization, to
I don't think I'm allowed
to secession and
Yeah.
decentralization.
I think she
is
cries
very
whenever there's a
attention
crisis.
If you'll put some
I
funny,
think
quick little
that
clips
any-
in
Any,
there.
I'm
any
joking.
invention of the federal
I'll-
government or the
I'll put it in
presidency
there.
is a problem if your goal is decentralization or libertarianism, because it displaces concentration on the municipal, on local government.
Something y'all need to consider now is that, not necessarily what you guys are particularly talking about, but I think you said it, they're all in the same kind of boat there.
Yeah.
If Hillary's elected again, that'll be 24 years.
That's the point I was
ruled-
about to come
the,
to.
The country has been ruled by the same 2 families.
Yeah, and
So
what
right now, we're
what
already at
message
20 years
what
by either a Bush
message
or a Clinton.
does that
And-
teach to somebody who's just coming of voting age? It teaches the
It says
wrong
pick a
message
name.
about democracy. It teaches a destructive message
Pick
about
a name
democracy.
you know, that's what it teaches.
Yeah, and that is why I do not want Hillary.
Okay.
Well,
I
except
mean-
nobody else has put the kind of priority on contraception that Hillary's of the major candidates. Hillary's the strongest on contraception.
Oh, Hillary has some strong points. I don't mean.
They all
It
have
doesn't
to-
matter.
I
Neither
don't
here
mean
nor
to
there.
d-
If somebody's
deny it.
18 and
I-
they've had one of 2 political parties their entire life, that does not teach the right message to young people.
I don't
about
mean to
what
throw.
democracy is.
I don't mean to
Contraception is
throw
many
out the
times more
bathwater
important.
with
Yeah,
with
but you
the
know
baby
what?
with
It's
Hillary.
just one issue, and all things considered, I mean, you know, is do you think like Barack Obama or John Edwards are going to be anti-contraception? And for that matter, you
Ruling
don't think
families are
Jenna
just
Bush
one
is,
issue.
and you don't think Jenna Bush has had a few abortions on the
Right.
side?
My,
Come
my
on.
problem is not with Hillary's platform. My problem is with Hillary.
Me too.
So you know, and it's not that I hate Hillary. I just don't want her as president. That's all.
I hate her.
You hate her, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I don't.
going
hate her.
I don't hate her. I don't
hate
hate her.
Hillary.
But I do not believe in political dynasties,
But I-
and she represents a political
Well,
dynasty.
actually, I like the
I
high
reject
negatives
her as
because the high
president.
negatives
I'm
will
sorry,
cause
but-
the disunity required for decentralization.
Well, yes, there is that.
there will be
Cheer
no
the worst guy because
decentralization.
it gets our
He's trying to start a movement. You got to be a little bit more assertive here.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the worst guy. It's the one with the high negative.
If you want to start a revolution, you need to be a little more assertive. And if one of us speaks up, you got to, and say, "No, we have to talk about this."
Knock your earphones
I have a
off.
microphone right
Okay,
here.
well,
That's right. I'll duck.
first bit is the preamble to the, well, not preamble, but the first bit of the American Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, well, we know about that.
Well,
Do
yes.
we? But what don't we? But what might we? There might be someone out there who doesn't know about that. I bet if we polled everybody, and if we put everybody and made them take a test, I bet they would fail the test. I bet they would score less than 25% on a standard test about the preamble to what is it? The Declaration of Independence. Yeah.
One thing, I mean, they're actually, it's not that great of a document. If you actually read,
It's not bad.
well, yes, I mean, it has some great ideas at the beginning, but if you read the second half about the reasons why they're seceding or why they're revolting, half of them are not that the King George was making too many laws and was being too heavy on them. It's that he wasn't making enough laws. He was letting too much domestic disharmony
He wasn't
go on.
taking care of them properly. Yes.
Well, yes, but he wasn't helping them kill
Is this on?
Indians.
Is this microphone on?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it is. Okay.
But the first half is pretty good. However, the first half of the Declaration of Independence
Is the best part.
is the best part and stands in stark contrast to the American Constitution, which I consider a counter-revolutionary document. It is against the spirit of the American Revolution.
I'm still unemployed.
Okay.
I've been just
It
doing
was a
Mount
step
Dungeon stuff.
backwards
You know
in
we've
terms
got
of
this
liberty, in
fundraising
terms
thing
of
that
autonomy,
we're
in
gonna
terms
do in the
of
spring.
many other good things.
But now, how about your
And,
revolution?
My
Now,
revolution, yes.
Do you step backwards?
No.
Oh no.
Probably
Going forward, all the
to
way.
need some bands
Okay, wait a minute. We have some.
to get some rowdy music going.
Okay. Tell us more about the idea of a fundraiser.
Well, that's part of it. Like we're
Okay.
going to have like a fundraising weekend.
No.
Where?
We
And
as
for
in,
URTV.
URTV.
Where?
Here.
Oh,
Probably here.
Oh yeah. Can we have bands in the studio and a party, big party room,
I think because
and strippers?
Slip and
Pat had
slide.
approached me to help organize it.
Mm-hmm.
I think bands and strippers and
Uh-huh.
a silent auction.
Okay.
bands and strippers. Bands and
And a
strippers.
silent auction.
As
That's
long as we
like,
don't-
So we'll have some stuff
like you do
in
that.
one of the rooms.
Like you do that.
And,
You go.
and yes. Well, it'll be like an informal auction where people can either write on a notepad and bid, or auction
As
on
long as
the
we don't-
internet.
Yeah, we've got some
or whatever.
computers back in the back room and stuff. We've got some stuff back in the back room just taking up some room we need to auction off, and people that are members can bring things to add to the auction.
Well, no, I'm thinking about, like dinner for two at the Grove Park Inn.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm talking about, we want
Oh,
to raise
it's not
some
like
money.
not like a flea market
No, we
auction.
want to raise money.
What if we
Let's see.
auction off like
Sex
a 1 hour
slaves.
puff piece?
Oh,
on a person?
like any time.
Puff piece?
Yeah, just like this is your life sort of thing.
That's an interesting idea.
But
You
anyway,
get your own hour of
anyway,
reality TV.
So we want the public to be coming in that weekend. We want some bands. We want some, real energy. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to help us with the bands
Maybe.
and the wiring up the music.
We're
Tell me
actually
if, tell
going
me
to
if
do our
that's
own.
too strong.
It's good.
We're trying to organize our own little fundraising thing, kind of Mountain Dungeon Presents, and we're not thinking anywhere past that in terms of getting bands for a live act at the moment. Once we get that organized, then is there a tentative date?
Well, we need to get together with Pat and
Okay.
because if you can put it off so that it goes in with that weekend, that would be good.
It'd be fun to throw a party in the studio, and we can video
And out
it.
in the parking lot and have and I was thinking even have some of the better
This
food
reminds me of
places
something.
around town show up and have a tent and have some fresh cooked food and selling bowls of the food.
I was going to say
Reminds
sort of
me
like
of
a
something.
chili
I'll be right
cook-off.
back.
Remember we were gonna have a
A
gumbo,
cook-off.
and we never
Well,
did that.
That didn't materialize, but the idea is still fermenting.
Yeah, we can, that's
Because I would
still a good
definitely
idea.
bring a big pot of gumbo and
That's still a
sell
good
it for $2 or $3 a taste.
All right, okay. Now, no, have you heard about John's revolution here?
I'm sorry, I was kind of like.
He was there for a lot of it.
Have you heard about it? Oh, really? I mean, he's been sitting up late at night. putting
I
together
have.
putting together a,
Far too late
a
at night.
revolution. And I'm glad somebody's doing it. I want to try to. It's a good one. It's not so bad either, and I'm actually kind of surprised. You know, I don't mean to be.
It's okay.
You know, it's not. It's a pretty good one. I mean, it's not.
Why did you come up with this?
Well, I've been interested in the whole idea of a country other than the United States of America for about, I don't know, 12 years now, ever since I was in college.
Have you been out of the country to other countries?
I briefly, I went to Greece for a week. Two
What do you
weeks.
think about that new democracy?
I wasn't impressed with the food at the time.
How about the wine?
I was in the high school trip. We didn't have
well,
that
you know,
much
before I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, and before you want to, tear up what we have here, which is not great, but if you've been to other parts of the world, it's a lot better.
fun. Yes, but we can't.
Not all parts of the world.
Yeah. We can't progress.
Not better than New Zealand. It's not better than, except for climate, it's not better than Sweden. It's not better than Australia. It's not better than.
Well, we're kind of middle with Australia. Australia's getting kind of down the dumps lately.
Right. Not
Well-
better than everywhere.
Not better than everywhere.
Well, I didn't say it was not better than everywhere, but it's not bad when you go to other places.
It's not.
And
But-
we, as always, have tremendous potential.
Yeah.
Well,
Before we tear
Someone's
it
a lump
apart,
of
let's
putty.
try to make it better.
well, we've tried making it better. We've tried for the last 200 years to make it better.
And also, tearing it apart is not. I don't think that's an acceptable metaphor because secession is taking a piece out of it, right?
Well,
And
that's
if-
what the South tried to do, and that led to the bloodiest war in
That,
history.
yeah, kind
Well,
of sort of
for one
did
thing, it
work.
was a very big piece, and for another thing, they were doing something that was morally unacceptable,
And for
and it was virtually half of it, and yeah, they felt it was tearing it apart, but a piece that is smaller, and a piece that is not doing something morally unacceptable, can leave the rest of it alone intact for the people who want to continue.
and everyone always says, but the Civil War, the Civil War, the Civil War. That is fear talking. And fear is a lousy decision maker, as I said repeatedly there.
Well, the word secession and what and the connotation of it gets a lot of people all riled up.
The South shall rise again, too.
People need to be riled up.
I'm down with that.
Just for the record, I do want to state that the Civil War was not about slavery; it was about economics.
Exactly.
So
Thank you.
We need to quit talking about that. It was
Thank
about slavery.
you.
'Cause
Thank
it's not.
you. Thank
This
you.
is a Virginia boy talking,
It was
right?
just. It was just a. That was just like
It was
something
about
to hang
economic
it
freedoms. The
on.
North. The
That was
North,
just something to
the
hang
they
it
would-
on.
They would have abolished slavery eventually anyway. And basically, it was the North was using the South's resources and not giving them fair, equal compensation.
Well, it was a very large something to hang it on, and it was a very large
Yeah,
thing
it
that
was.
they could have conceded and didn't.
But
I
hey,
mean,
until it
it's
was
kind
too
of
late.
like a
Fight
marriage
terrorism
that doesn't
too,
work,
you know,
and there's
so that's easy to
infidelity
hang,
involved. Well, you can
bombs on
hang the
countries on.
cause on the infidelity, but there was a whole bunch of other bad reasons too.
Okay, whether the Civil War was okay. It is true. I just want this out here that many of the states listed as their reasons for seceding from the Union that they thought the North would try to get rid of all their slaves.
Okay.
This is morally deplorable. In fact, it's
But
more
the North had slaves too.
well. No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Well,
Some of the front lines.
from the front lines, but not New York. But the reason why the South seceded is irrelevant.
Didn't they just recently uncover a grave site of slaves from New York, around New York City?
Well,
At one time,
At one
but not by
time,
now.
Historically
yeah.
speaking,
Okay.
I mean, just about
1700s,
any,
Oh,
you mean-
any
okay.
place in Western civilization, historically speaking, had slaves at
Okay.
one time.
Okay.
the North did not fight the South over slavery. The South may have seceded from the North over slavery, but the North did not fight the South over slavery. The North has absolutely no moral high ground for freeing the slaves. That was not part of their bailiwick. So,
No, I'm going to disagree. It was a large part of their value.
but they didn't go to war for that. They did not, at the beginning of the war, say, we are fighting to keep the South in the United States in order to protect the slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation came out years after the South seceded.
Yeah, that's
Lincoln was for either keeping the slaves or not keeping the slaves. It didn't matter to him as long as he could keep the entire United States. In fact, he was for shipping them all back to Africa. That is recorded.
Yes.
So the South had no altruistic feelings towards the slaves. The slaves had no friends.
I mean, the North had no altruistic.
I'm sorry, the North had no altruistic.
Well, actually, I'm going to do there was a substantial abolitionist movement that did have altruistic feelings, and it
Yes.
was a minority, but it was substantial.
Yes, there was.
It
No,
politically
you're right.
significant.
You're right. There was a substantial abolitionist movement, and you know what? One of the big things they tried to do or considered doing was secede from the South. There was a large, heavy movement. They get New England basically to secede from the rest of America to distance themselves from the morally hateful institution of slavery.
That's right.
And if that had happened, well, I think
And you're right. It's not, and you can see that it's not fundamentally opposed
Right.
to the secession in principle. If the North was, if New England was, if abolitionists in New England were thinking about that, right, were preparing, and you have the Vermont Republic, and you have Cascadia, and you have Puerto Rico and Hawaii and secessionist movement.
I'm sure that we have a book
That
here
are,
that will explain that. Explain all of that.
that are
Right.
still of that vein.
You could look in there and you could find
One of
the
the great-
section on
well, not one of the great
the
tragedies.
secession and the Civil War. There'll be a section on
There's a
it.
forward by Thomas Jefferson here.
I know.
One of
It's
the
very
great
good, too. But there's a
annoyances
secession.
of the Civil
There'll be
War
a section on there
is
of
that every
about secession
movement
and
after
Well,
that,
this is a good
it gets
reference
tarred
book, isn't it?
with
It
There was
is.
good reference library.
morally repugnant.
Well, when
I
it
don't
comes
think,
to
I don't
American
think Puerto
history.
Ricans ever have. In fact, I forwarded a Puerto Rican independence email to that secessionist listserv to
I
try
saw
to
that.
connect that, because
I saw
that's
that.
the first
You're right.
time the Puerto Ricans have really. There aren't any Puerto Ricans on that listserv, and that's the first time I've heard from them. I heard them
Well,
from another listserv.
I've emailed that group about
Yeah.
secessionism, and they tend to distance themselves from the non-indigenous secessionist movements in America, like Cascadia and the Vermont Republic. They tend to think of themselves in a different category of wanting to get away from America.
Because they're not a state. Yeah, okay. They're in a somewhat different category.
Well,
but
no, it's just
they're in a different category, and I think that's okay. But I don't know why that should mean no communication.
well, I don't either. I like the idea. In fact, the third conference, I want to fly people in from Puerto Rico and Hawaii because we need those two groups represented at the next conference that they have.
Unless we can make an electronic conference, yes.
Take it down to that.
What'd you say?
I
There
don't
to
see
have
anything about the war
flesh
in
and blood.
here.
Really? They've left
Yeah,
out.
Don't
but I
mention
can
the
tell you
war.
this, I'm feeling very rebellious right
Yes.
now, and have been for a long time about
Okay.
what's going on. But I think that would be reverting instead of going forward.
Read. I lay out everything here.
I'll read it later.
Well, do you want to expound upon anything specific in there? I mean, like say, you
Well,
think,
I mean, I tried to get the gist across for everything. I would like to do maybe a exposition.
because I
with-
know that every paragraph of that is a synopsis, not a.
Well, yeah,
You know.
you have to do that with.
And
something like
that's
that.
why I thought you would like to
Well,
expand.
I probably
upon
would, but
some
I'd like to,
sections.
prepare something maybe with visual
Okay,
aids. or something
okay,
like that.
and I don't want to steal your whole
PowerPoints.
show. I don't want to
No,
steal your whole
I'd
show.
love to do it on a later Mad Scientist Tea Party.
Welcome
I just
to
don't want to do it right now, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have you back sometime after the revolution has failed, and we'll discuss.
And now the
We have
Mad Scientist.
14 minutes left, and I am going to just take a moment to talk over everybody.
Okay.
In part because I am getting completely sick of the whole secessionist thing, because I don't think it'll ever happen.
All right.
And I am going to take a moment of shallow self-promotion.
Oh no!
No depth, no meaning whatsoever. Tonight, is this which one?
No, but I'll put that one on. Wait a minute. Now it's look,
There you
look,
go.
turn around. There you go. There you go. Tonight.
Tonight, right here on your TV at 11 p.m., we have an episode of Mount Dungeon, that being Peace Jones. Peace Jones tonight on Mount Dungeon, right here on this station, on this channel, 11 p.m. Watch it.
Peace Jones.
Peace Jones. That's
Peace
right.
out.
Peace out.
Peace
Okay,
Jones.
there we go.
Help me remember which one Peace Jones is.
Peace Jones.
It's good, but no, I don't
Were they
really
the
remember.
flute guys?
Yeah, yeah.
The flute guys.
The flute.
The lead guy played
guy.
a flute.
Oh, I know who that. Those are my buddies. Yes.
Actually, I would have
exactly.
jumped back a little bit about land values and said,
Okay.
you said if I get a good price for my farm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you said, well, you better hurry up or something. But remember, if I'm buying another farm with it, the Nevada prices have
Plummeted,
dropped.
are they?
Yeah, the prices
Going
where I'm
to-
going,
oh, yeah.
Nevada prices have
You're not
dropped more.
going
That
to
is true.
Nevada?
That is
So
true.
I can
Might
buy.
I recommend you go somewhere with water?
Why do
Arable
you
land.
want to go to Nevada?
Vegas,
Why?
baby.
Why? You
Um,
want to go to Nevada?
because it's libertarian, but it's West Coast. It's Western.
Okay,
It's
what's up?
far Western. It has
Yeah.
it has the social values, including legal prostitution.
And
that
gambling.
certainly is important.
What legal prostitution? Yeah,
Well,
I'm
it's
going
important.
there.
It's important in theory.
I knew a guy named Mr. Conkey, and he moved
It's important in
to
theory.
Coconut Grove because in Coconut Grove there was a drive-in pot dealer that had he was a black guy and he was working in the projects and he had they had marijuana curb service and he had little black kids that were runners. And they were cars were parked and they were in line. They were lined up down the block and around the corner. And they would come by and they would just roll down their window and hold out their money and like a black kid on roller skates
what does
or
that have to
something.
do with prostitution?
Well, I'm just
I thought
telling you.
you'd
Wait a
get to
minute,
the
I'm
point.
getting there. A black kid would come by and like snag your money, and another one would come by and throw your bag in the car, and then you'd run off. You know.
Right.
And this was going. And Mr. Conkey told me, he said that is why he moved to Coconut Grove. He said because he wanted to live in a community that had a drive-through pot dealer.
I can understand that.
In the neighborhood, he thought that was an asset. Similar, and I see that although it was not legalized, it's similar to have legalized prostitution. So people would move to such a neighborhood.
Right,
for-
but in my case, because it's theoretical and not actually customer based, that it absolutely does have to be legal.
Right.
Illegal. It doesn't matter how prevalent it is, like New York or something. It doesn't matter how prevalent it is in the illegal world. It must be legal. And the reason is because my real cause is municipal contraception. If I go to the town, if I go to Asheville or Leicester or Woodfin and say, we need the city needs to spend money on condoms, they're going to be offended. They're going to say, no way, that's offensive, right? That's
Right.
what they always do. And
Do
they
you
give
think
me
you
the
could
silent
get?
treatment.
Do you think you could get one of those free bags of condoms out here for the lobby here at URTV?
Yeah, we'll
those
see
baskets
Planned
of
Parenthood about it. Yeah, sometimes they can afford
good
them and
idea.
sometimes they can't. So yeah, we'll see.
because
that.
I saw the one in the coffee shop. There's two coffee shops I know in town that have them. One has them in the bathroom, and the other has them just out
Right.
in the
Well, Planned Parenthood.
Just
yeah.
like a
look,
like a
balloons.
candy dish,
See
but
Planned
it's
Parenthood, yeah.
condoms. Yeah, they have Lucky Boy.
But anyway, they can't be
Do they have
if
some
they're
Viagra
offended. If they've legal
but one of them
prostitution, they
had
can't be offended
uh,
by contraception.
one of
I
them
understand
had
your point
lubricants.
there.
with it.
I would only caution you never
Flavored
underestimate the ability of the American to be offended by something he should not be
read that
offended by.
closely, but I thought it was a
Well,
brilliant
yeah,
idea.
or by the potential for hypocrisy.
I think it's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
simple.
But no, it's a lot more municipal contraception funding is a lot more prevalent out west, and it's a lot more realistic out west
I get your
than
point
it is
there.
in the Bible Belt.
I get your point there. Yeah.
And it's not very realistic in the Blue Ridge, and
Well,
and therefore I'm lukewarm about the Blue Ridge.
I understand.
Well, I agree with you that there are too many people having babies that should not have babies.
And
by
too many
far.
people not having babies that should.
There's
No.
that.
There's nobody not having babies that should. Nobody on this.
Well, you know what? I have made the
Including Albert
observation that there
Einstein.
are people who have, yeah, you're right. There are people that are potentially good genetic material that aren't having kids or at best one, while there are people of very questionable genetic material that are.
Well, there's not humans. It's orchids, maybe. Panda bears. And there aren't any humans.
I'm sorry. What?
Panda bears are like maybe they should be having kids.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But,
Okay.
but they're not human. There aren't any humans. I'm not
I
going to
thought you were
there's a human.
calling the
like that.
subclasses panda bears. That's an interesting slur.
Well, genetically
I'm saying
speaking,
that
I
the
think.
creatures that aren't having enough babies aren't humans.
Okay.
Well, genetically speaking, one thing that I do, I just want to put out there that does give me hope that I do encourage is if somebody's gonna going to have kids, I think children from interracial or mixed race backgrounds are our best chance in terms of humanity, just because of the genetic diversity. Any child that comes from mixed race background generally tends to inherit the good qualities from the parents, and the bad genetic qualities tend to get left behind.
What happens is you have a
Like
thing
Tiger
in the
Woods.
first generation called
Barack Obama.
hybrid. You have a thing in the
I
first
didn't ever know
generation
that.
called hybrid vigor.
Yeah.
In the first generation of interracial marriage, you have a thing called hybrid vigor. America, being a melting pot, has had a lot of that,
Yes,
and has
it
been
has.
a lot of the vigor that we've had as a nation, and the fact that we continue to import more and more illegals, we'll keep that going, and it's a strong thing, and it's just I believe in physics and science. And it's just
Here, here.
it's a scientific principle. See what I mean of hybrid vigor, and I have known interracial the children of interracial marriages and stuff like that, and have just been amazed at the talents and abilities
Absolutely.
that some of these
Absolutely.
people have, and yes, it's not. For instance, it's not unusual. It doesn't seem strange to me to see, for instance, Barack Obama. Coming up the way that he is, because he is one of these. He no doubt is a hybrid vigor case.
Let me ask you guys a question. How many interracial couples can you think of in media, like on television characters, movie characters? Off the top of your head, how many could you think of for American television or American movies?
It's not very common. Ironically, it's more common on TV than it is in the movies.
But I watched a lot of BBC America recently. Half the relationships on BBC America, and like the science fiction shows and the cop shows, on movies, stuff like that, is interracial relationships. It's just so weird and
Interracial
kind of
relationships do
liberating.
not have the stigma in England that they have here.
But it's just so interesting
You
to
know.
watch that, because you don't see that kind of interaction in
Well,
American
this is
television.
true. I mean, you think of England as being primarily white, though it's not.
No.
But
It's not.
you'll-
England is not primarily white.
Well, you think of England as being almost exclusively white as your classic example of it, but in fact, they do have a fairly sizable immigrant population.
I be-
Certainly, the urban or
I believe
cosmopolitan areas.
I believe it would be fair to say that England is primarily white.
True, this is true, but the cosmopolitan areas, the urban areas, that's not always the case. And I've observed the same thing watching some BBC, that it's very common to see mixed or interracial couples on, say, TV coming from England, as opposed to here.
Yeah,
And you
EastEnders
see it,
or-
to a lesser degree, you do see it some on TV here. But usually, if you see it in the movies here, that's what the movie's about.
Right.
You don't see a mixed race couple very often in a movie as just kind of an incidental thing.
And that's one of the great things about the British, when you see British television, because it is almost always no big deal.
Yeah.
It's just that, oh yeah, boy and girl, not white boy and black girl, or vice versa. That's very, very cool to see, actually.
What really bugged me, more than anything I was trying to remember, what bugged me,
Did you know that when you lean back, you're completely off camera except for a little orange
I know.
part of your shirt?
I know,
But if you would scoot up, you would stay. No, if you would scoot in
Okay.
close to the camera and close to the
what
table,
bugged
you'd
me
stay
is
on.
I remember
screen.
watching Deep Space Nine.
I just know how you like to be
Star
honest.
Trek in the future, and there was Captain Sisko, the first Star Trek black captain.
Right.
Yeah, he did
And
a
they
good
always
job, didn't he?
hooked. He was good. I liked his character, but they always hooked him up with black women. It's the future. I mean, Kirk got alien babes, but did Sisko get alien babes? No, he got human black women all the time.
Well, I'm not going to.
Maybe he was partial to.
Well, you
If
know,
I
but I
remember
mean,
correctly, there were basically two love interests on that show. One of them was like the bad Earth version of his first wife. So of two love interests, I don't think making them both black is being that.
Well,
silly.
also, alien
Yeah,
babes
but-
doesn't count because if
And
it's
see,
male,
he knows.
if it's male, it has
He's
to
a
be
nerd.
married.
He's nerd enough
It
to know
doesn't-
that there were
doesn't matter if he
two.
has an
That
alien
this
babe.
captain had two
well,
of it.
those are, I think,
What
there's
the-
plenty of alien babes out there.
I watched. I
Yeah,
like
but it doesn't-
DS9.
it
It's one of
doesn't
my favorite
count.
shows.
Why does it not count?
Right.
What
It
why
doesn't
does
count
alien,
for a man. Yeah.
why does it? Why
Well,
does
because
an
the
alien
way
babes not count?
the way race and gender work, it doesn't count. It doesn't count as an interracial couple for a man if the star is male, unless he marries her.
I've
all over my
watched
head.
enough sci-fi television that I'm not going to necessarily buy into that.
Okay.
Because Kirk went to a different planet every week and
He
was
had
making out with
he
a
had
different
green
woman every
women.
week. Yeah.
But you know what okay, let me tell you what I've seen. Truth about Star Trek predicting the future. A lot with telephones. Like, our flip phones. Our flip phones are direct.
In fact, they're light years ahead of the communicators.
Yeah,
Star Trek.
Look at the size of this sucker.
Right. Well, it's just like the communicator.
Right.
It's just like the communicator, and it's a direct ripoff of the
Yeah.
communicator. It really is. But the one I like is Uhura. Uhura was a black woman with that thing stuck in her ear.
Right.
And as I walk around, I have found all these black people with this thing stuck in their ear. And they should come out with the Uhura model.
Ooh, they should. Why haven't they done that?
I don't know. I don't
We should
know.
do it right now.
They're missing out by not having the
Star Trek version. That would be so damn cool.
Would we?
Give it time, they will.
Okay, well let's send a patent in right now and get it working.
The Uhura model of the
Don't let anybody else steal
Bluetooth
the
ear
idea.
thing, the Uhura Bluetooth ear thing.
That's so. Wow. You're
Yeah.
right.
We could make $1 million.
I'm telling you.
But
It's right in front of my face.
Speaking of making money,
Yes.
making money, I used to go to this wholesale herb show and peddle a product that I sold at the time, and I was across the way from this company called Burt's Bees back when they got started. And I just
Working the trade shows, they still
read
work the trade
in the
shows.
paper
How many
that
millions is Burt worth?
Clorox bought out Burt's Bees for almost $1 billion.
Oh my God.
guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Dang.
You see. Okay. Right.
So the
then-
Burt's Bees that you see it.
You're somebody who knows
It's
what
Clorox now.
Burt's Bees. I mean, it's Burt's
I
Bees.
know when they started.
You
I
know, and it
I
was
knew
Burt.
him. He was,
Right.
and it was like in the
Exactly.
New York Times. I read it in the paper. It was a picture of him and her, and they met back in like '82 or '83.
Mm-hmm.
She was she was a single mom hitchhiking to the post office, and he picked her up,
You're into the.
and he sold.
You're
He
into the
sold
wine.
honey from
Well, this
his
is the
bees.
3-hour show today.
Oh, we're going to 7. I'm sorry. Okay.
Today's why did I have
He sold.
We have more
he sold
information.
honey
You do.
We have more
out of
information.
the back of his truck in old vinegar jars, and so he had the wax, and he says, "Why don't you do something with this wax?" And that was the beginning of Burt's Bees, which just sold for $1 billion, $925 million
Go Burt.
last
Go capitalist hippies.
All
fall.
right. Official racial statistics of
Come on in
England.
here. Come on in here close. Come close to the mic.
All
That's
right.
our
Awesome.
official
Awesome.
statistics.
England,
I'm
which
looking
is not.
forward to hearing
What did you say it wasn't?
Okay.
92.1% white,
Yeah.
4% Asian, 2% black,
Uh-huh.
1.2% mixed.
Well, then why is
So-
all their TV about interracial couples if that's the
More colorful. That's
it's more
colorful
politically
TV.
correct too. It's more because it's BBC's government. But
We need more black people in England.
And quite frankly,
2% is
Indian women
unacceptable.
are beautiful.
This is true. This is
Also,
quite true.
also, you don't find that to be, if you watch the BBC, you see shows about some of the shows are inner city, some of them are out in the country.
Right.
And out in the country, you're not seeing a lot of racial
This is
marriages.
true.
In the city, you're seeing a lot of racial marriages, which is more common there. And I think but if you look at American TV, you see a lot more black people, not necessarily interracial marriages, but a lot more black people on American TV now than you did 10, 20 years ago.
This is very
by a
true.
long shot. As a matter of fact, some of the evenings are just one black sitcom after another. you
I have
know.
a full disclosure that connects both of these issues.
Oh, you do?
All right.
Political relocation and interracial marriage. My uncle is not here on the farm, or and didn't practice as an adult. Didn't practice medicine here in Asheville. Isn't in the Blue Ridge. He's on. He moved to Portland, Oregon.
Wait a
And-
second. We got
2% of all marriages in England are interracial.
2%.
what percentage of American marriages are?
I'll be back with that.
All right.
Okay, this is my uncle who inherited. My cousin inherited half the farm, the part in Madison County, but he settled in Portland, Oregon, because he married a Korean woman, and my cousin is half Korean,
Okay.
and that wasn't acceptable.
Right,
He didn't
before that.
perceive that as being acceptable here in the 1950s,
Right.
and so he moved to Portland, Oregon.
Unfortunately, he was probably correct.
He was,
was correct.
I'm sure he was correct. Yeah, and since then he moved to Idaho
Mm-hmm.
for tax reasons, And it was like Nevada, right? Because
Is it like Nevada?
well,
Yeah,
a little
but
bit.
it's
It's
a
more
little prettier.
libertarian,
It's a
conservative
little prettier.
than the states that are actually on the coast.
Okay, well, yes.
And
just remember-
it has less zoning. Nevada, I'd go to California if it didn't have zoning and didn't put a big catalytic converter on my car. And
I just remember looking at a map on the Southern Poverty Law Center
Yeah.
website, and there's a whole bunch of little white triangles in Idaho.
Does that mean
right,
white
yeah, there are some
supremacy?
white supremacists in
triangles
Idaho,
live in
but
Idaho.
it's later,
White
and
supremacists.
he's not.
Well,
Do
I
they,
know,
do they
I
have
know
little?
he's
Do they
not.
have a little holes cut out for the eyes?
Exactly. I mean, that's what they do. They have little white triangles of holes. They have little swastikas. They have like little black fists, I think, for Nation of Islam.
Right, and his
Or
son
something
didn't
like
follow him to Idaho. His son is still in Portland, Oregon.
that. Okay.
So, but anyway, that's an example of the political relocation of the last generation, and it's why my uncle and cousin aren't on the family farm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, let's say the very unusual happens, and that all secessionists get to secede. You're going to have, and let's say that for some reason the Blue Ridge Autonomous Zone gets its own little bit. You're going to have the BRAZ surrounded by the Christian Exodus people, and basically the neo-Confederates all around them.
Okay, so what we're getting into now is we're going to see Europe unite around the euro and everything and become the nation of Europe, and then we're going to see America break up into fragmented little
Yeah.
countries.
Well, the Russian,
Europe takes us back.
right, the Russian model is the modern model.
Well, let's go with the Czech model if at all possible.
Okay.
They've been the most peaceful so far.
Checkerboard.
No, Czech. Okay, but
Czechoslovakia, yeah,
If
Czech Republic
Czech-
and Slovakia.
yeah,
Czechoslovak.
most peaceful so far, I think. So you're going to have the BRAZ surrounded by the neo-Confederates and Christian Exodus, who are, let's face it, going to have quite a bit of people they consider undesirable in those states. For instance, I know that South Carolina is where all the strippers in North Carolina go basically to apprenticeship, and they come back to North Carolina. So evidently, it's like the mecca.
Well, I'm not
of
sure.
stripping.
It's a good question. How Christian Exodus like is the African American?
This is a revolution based
too,
on
but,
where the strippers go.
But no, I
I can think of worse reasons to secede.
No, but
I think not Thomas Jefferson. What's his name? Benjamin. I think Benjamin Franklin was also inspired in a similar manner.
But if African American community, and I have to separate that from the race because the
Right.
community probably doesn't include Alan Keyes, and if the African American community, if this were to happen, the African American community were to fulfill this strategy, there's enough to build a majority in one southern state. They
Or
could
two.
take Mississippi or Alabama
Yeah,
or
but
South
this is
Carolina.
all moot because it ain't gonna happen.
Well,
Let's talk about something real.
and then the
I'm
Confederates wouldn't
tired
have
of this
that one.
conversation.
I'm a little
Right.
bit on Devine's page, and that there
This
is
ain't
a
gonna
point
happen.
after which it's
okay,
moved.
okay. You want something a bit more down to earth and realistic, eh? I read an article
Or
in.
highly entertaining in a zany sort of way.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
did you
more
read-
like highly
did you read the
entertaining in a
Mountain
zany
Express?
Sort of way.
Huh?
Did you read this?
I have not seen the latest Mountain Express yet.
There's evidently a scientist who has created a race of super mice.
Well, let's talk about Bobby Medford rotting in jail.
Oh, poor Bobby Medford.
Well,
Rodney.
Bobby Medford can't get out of jail. He's gonna have to wait for his trial to come up.
Oh.
I find both the race of super mice and Bobby Medford in jail because of stuff that he did both a highly entertaining prospect.
Super mice?
I think it's.
Super
I
mice,
love,
like I said,
I
super
love to
mice.
see karma come
What-
rolling
what
around
is super
on people.
mice?
Well, they live
I
longer.
just
They can
relish
like
it.
run for 5 hours at a time, and they have like 3 times as much sex as regular mice.
Really?
Yeah, according to the researcher, according to the Mountain Express, according to the News of the Weird, it is like flipped a genetic switch that caused this.
Did we develop them or did they develop on their own?
We developed them.
Oh, I
Yes,
see.
secrets in them and all that. But evidently, there's the same switch in humans that if you flip it, the same things would happen to us.
Right
I say,
on.
let's
Right
do,
on.
I say,
Flip it,
yeah,
flip
let's
it.
do
Well,
it.
that's the
Let's
thing.
flip it.
He said,
Flip
but
that
of course we would
switch.
never do that because that would be wrong. That's what the sentence says.
You know what? No. I want let's create a handful of children,
Right.
through some genetic manipulation and in vitro fertilization that have been flipped, and let's see what happens.
Right.
I'm really
We
curious.
sort of flipped a switch in the 60s. We did.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to.
Unfortunately,
Then
we
could you
flipped it
pass
back
some of that
again
to
in the
me when you
70s.
finish with it, please, sir?
Oh yeah.
I'd like to go back actually to to Bobby Medford.
Is it hot? That's why I was.
And
A little bit.
That's good.
I get a little sort of visceral thrill about Bobby Medford being in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when cops go to jail, I get a bit happy.
Right, I get a little choked up myself.
I get thrilled that somebody who
But-
had so much power over people is now having to sample what he did to other people.
But
do you think that they've put him in the same cell with Big Bob?
no.
Who's
But-
Big Bob?
I just made that up.
But I would like to point out that
He's a black man.
No. He's in solitary because he would be a target.
Well,
So
I bet
he's
they
in
I bet they
solitary.
keep him locked up in a small room and don't let him talk to anybody.
I
but
don't
his
think
lawyers,
that's
I'm
fair
sure.
because if they put me in, I'd be a target too. You know what I'm saying? And as a matter of fact, I've been locked up and I was a target.
I could.
Well, so he's getting preferential treatment.
There's something to say about for farmers about Bobby Medford, though, and that is that although the new sheriff probably hasn't struck down too much, but farm tractors, have special farm exemption and can drive down the road a little ways, right? But if the farmer has an old Jeep or an ATV or something, right? He can't drive to his pasture 100 yards down the road. It's illegal, right? Medford's. I haven't found an instance of Medford's people ever bothering a farmer driving his old Jeep down to his pasture.
Right.
But the new sheriff hasn't either. Well, something to be said for Bobby Medford is he didn't
Right.
bother farmers.
Well, you
who
know
were driving
what?
their Jeep
So,
in
yeah.
the
You know
road.
what? Hitler built the Autobahns too.
well,
Yeah,
but-
and it designed to be.
I want to say this
designed
about Bobby
Volkswagen,
Medford.
yeah.
Right, just because Bobby Medford had enough sense not to mess with farmers driving their tractors down the road, that doesn't take like a
I want to say this.
Whoop-de-doo!
I want to say
Well,
this.
not every
Bobby
it is-
Medford
it is-
should
it
not
is
be
good.
in jail.
It is
Where
good.
I grew up, they would.
Wait. I feel so I have to say this. Okay, if Bobby doesn't get to know Big Bob or Big Ben or Big Joe, or if he doesn't get to know Big Joe,
If he doesn't
shall we
get to
say
be his girlfriend?
intimately, he's not really had the jail experience.
Well, give
the
him
way
time.
Hey.
It ain't over yet.
Bobby
Only begun.
Bobby Medford should not be in jail.
Okay.
Why not?
At least not for the reasons he is in jail.
All right, you would think that he should execute him. Is that what you're
No.
saying? Oh, okay.
I'm thinking that he is in jail for basically protecting a business that should not have been illegal. To fund his
You go off